So hello everyone, just wanted to share with you for a few minutes my build of the Polar Lights 1/350 scale original series Enterprise. I'm really happy with how this came out. I am not a professional modeler. I realize I'm way behind everybody else on this one. I have had it pretty much since it came out, so obviously more than a year, but you know, I'm sure most of you know how that goes. You get something and then sits on the workbench and life happens and other things. But this was the summer I said, hey, gotta get it done. It was my number one goal for the summer as a teacher, and I did get it done. Eventually it's going to be displayed in my classroom. I think my kiddos are really going to like it. So what did I use on this? I did use the painting masks from Orbital Dry Dock. As someone who really doesn't like decals, these were really cool. All this painting does take a long time, at least for me. Probably if I were to ever make another one, I would organize my painting a little bit better so it wouldn't take quite so long. The other thing is probably order of construction. I think I did it a little off, so I apologize for the harsh shadows and lights. It's still on my workbench. Everything I did with an eye towards more visual interest. So it was interesting for me to follow along the debate about the panel lines on the saucer. I understand if you're making one that you want it as close to the original production TV model as possible, you do need to fill those in, but I like them, and even in the 23rd century, I think the idea that we could make something as big as the Enterprise and make it smooth, kind of silly. Yes, I realize that the idea that we could make the panel lines this symmetrical is also kind of silly, but I think it looks better. So I emphasize mine pretty heavily on the top and the bottom. Photo etch, I used a little bit, not a lot. I used them in the Broussard collectors. I used a few of the bits in the shuttle bay, but not too many because they're just way too small for me. I was going to use the photo etch on the pylons, and I had them painted and all ready to go, and then when it was time to put them on, I couldn't find them. They're lost. If they show up somewhere on my workbench as I'm cleaning up, I'll add them later, but for now, they're not there. I did not use the photo etch here, even though I had them, obviously, because I wasn't going to be able to get the blue light effect that I wanted. I did cut those up with an eye towards visual interest, like I said, and I added them to these engine pieces, little grills on here, even though I know that they're not supposed to be there. I thought they looked kind of cool, so I added them there. There's a shot of the engine bay, or shuttlecraft bay rather. Sorry, I'm using my phone. I can't close in too far. I did use the photo etch end cap piece, which is how you get those lights nice and precise. Let's see, weathering was done very minimal, just a little bit of sanding and then some dry brushing. The secondary hull, I used a combination of all three of the window choices, the white opaque, the black, the darker ones, and the clear. I thought it made it, again, a little more visually interesting. I used a lot of the blue and orange lights just because I like blue and orange. You notice that my Broussards do not spin. I did use the lighting kit from round 2. I understand a lot of the concerns people have, those of you who light models all the time, especially about things in a series. I understand, I get it. But for those of us who do not normally light models and probably never will again, this plug and play stuff from round 2 was absolutely fantastic. But with the motors, a couple of things. Number one, I did watch a number of videos where people were mentioning how loud they are. I wasn't really down with that. And the other thing is, one of my clear pieces that would have attached to the motor, the stem was horribly, horribly warped. It would never have spun correctly. It just would have looked silly. So, no motors. I think the blinking lights are enough for me, and isn't really what we're doing here. Everybody builds the model the way they want it to look. So, I did not do a bridge. Those of you who have the patience and the skills to do those awesome bridges, I do love the way they look, but I do not have the skills, or more importantly, the patience to do that. The underside of the saucer, once again, the painting masks from Orbital Dry Dock, awesome, awesome things. If I did have one complaint about those, I would say it's the yellow chevrons. Those masks were not going to work no matter how I thought about it. So I ended up doing those freehand, which for me was not a big deal. The stand, I echo many comments about how ridiculous the stand is, especially for such an expensive model. I found a really inexpensive lamp at a store, and I was able to adapt it for use as a stand. That's what gives it the ship. You'll notice it's tilting just a little bit. A couple of things, I had to modify the stand piece on the model quite a bit to make it work, and the stem piece that would go from the base to the lamp is actually warped a little bit, but I think it gives it a little interesting tilt more than a straight up shot from the side, so it worked out well. One more pass over the top. Once again, really, really happy with how this came out. I have not exercised my modeling skills in a long time, and this was, I've got a couple of really big models that are coming up next, and this has given me a lot of practice for what I'm going to do with those. Anyway, there it is. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them. I'll try and get back to you. Anyway, there it is. One more shot on the side. The USS Enterprise. Have a good day. Happy modeling.